Hello and welcome to Dale's Life. And this is a quick video because I do get asked by a lot of people of what is blockchain, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So this video is just a quick, simple explanation of some of the basics and history initially of blockchain. So what is blockchain as when people to refer to it in news and articles and just in conversations? What are we talking about when we talk about blockchain? So first of all, a history. Although it's relatively new in news, it's been around for quite some time in computer terms. Its first documented theory was in 1991 when there was a design put forward for securing data in blocks of data that would form a chain, hence the blockchain name. More recently, 2008, there was a white paper authored by a group named Satoshi Nakamoto, which was entitled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So this was the first documented use case of blockchain and how it could interact with the real world. And on the 3rd of January 2009, the first Genesis block was created, block 0, which was the very first block of Bitcoin and the start of Bitcoin. More recently, 2016, IBM opened the Blockchain Innovation Research Center in Singapore for looking at the uses and potential impact of blockchain in banking and commercial companies worldwide. And that just shows that it's not just a small hobby. Large multinational companies are getting involved in blockchain, and they have been for a few years. It is not just recently that they have been looking at blockchain. So what does blockchain provide over other systems? Well, first of all, as the name suggests, data is stored in blocks rather than being individual items. Those blocks of data are created at a point of time, so it becomes a block of data in time. The storage of the blocks is immutable. They cannot be changed. So historical information is held within a blockchain and is securely and irrevocably stored and auditable, so you can look back in time as to what the data was. The core essence of a blockchain is to be publicly accessible. That means it is simple and easy to look at the content and history of data in the blockchain, because that also infers its immutability by anybody able to audit the content of a blockchain. It's also permissionless. There is no inherent administrative access that allows data to be changed and violate the immutability. It is a one access level to the blockchain. Obviously, client software may have access levels, but the blockchain design itself does not have any permissions built within it. It was also designed to be decentralized. So by decentralization, you have multiple copies of the blockchain, and that helps again to be immutable, because any change has to change all copies, not just a single copy of the blockchain. So how is a data block created? Quite simply, over a period of time, data is gathered depending on what the data is for that application and put together in a block. That block is then put through a crypto algorithm to create a hash code. That hash code is a long number which is only valid and only applies to that specific block of data. If the data is in any way different, the hash will change. So once you have your block of data, the next block takes the hash from the previous block and adds it to its list of data. So now you have the hash, a new block of data, and a second hash. So if the data, including the first hash, is changed in any way, that hash is now invalid. And so it goes on. Every hash and every block of data is reliant upon the previous hash and block of data, therefore securing its immutability. An example of the use would be, here we have a storage of fruit quantities and transactions. So as an example, our first block sets a value for apples and oranges, and then the second block modifies the values of apples and adds a new value for pear, and so on. Each block in turn changes a value, either adds a new value or changes a value, and in each block, each time there is a unique ending hash and the hash from the previous block. If someone tries to change an element of that data, for example, they tried to change the values of apples, instead of being +5, they only wanted it to be +2, the hash would now change in that block. So immediately, if they rehashed it, but now the subsequent block would have a different hash value. So that hash value would no longer match the preceding hash, the preceding block hash. And immediately any audit system would be able to say, there has been a change to this data which does not support and is not supported within the blockchain. So you could now say, okay, that block needs to be recovered, or examined how, why, or where did that block get changed. The use of a blockchain, for example, using our data blockchain we've created, is you can ask through your code how many apples there are, and the software would simply go through the chain, looking up relevant data and calculating an end result. So it's fairly easy to use in this simplistic data. It's not the fastest way, but it is immutable. You can see every change that happened to the apple quantity throughout history. The other part of securing the blockchain is to be decentralized. Decentralization means taking a block or a copy of the blockchain onto a different server or computer and ensuring it has the same hash values and all the same data. So if we had 4 copies of the blockchain, and this could be a fairly much unlimited number, but we'll take 4 here as an example, but one of them had a different hash value, either the data is corrupted or has been modified. When a client asked that particular blockchain for how many apples and received the quantity back, it would also receive back the hash value. It would then compare that hash value against other blockchain servers and get a consensus of a majority of what should be the correct hash value. If that hash value or answer is different, you know the blockchain you asked initially is incorrect. And you could, depending on your software, you could either ignore that answer and ask a different blockchain for the correct value. So quorum means that the majority. So the majority view would be taken as to that answer. So some uses of blockchain in the real world. So the blockchain itself is good at storing historical transactions of data. Because every block is a point in time, that data is relevant to that point in time in history. It also is a ledger of changes, because you can point in there a change to some sort of data at a particular point in time. It is good at recording ledger type information. And any information that you want to record and want to ensure that it cannot be changed by anybody without invalidating the whole blockchain. Real-world examples of some use of blockchain would be a document management system, where the data within the block would contain the document that was changed, maybe who, when, and what was changed at that particular point in time in that document. Or accounting ledgers, what went in and out of an account at a certain time, and that is recorded and cannot be changed or modified or backdated in any way. And currency transactions, as an example of where money is paid from account A to account B, and then from account B into account X and Y, and all of the movements of currencies, or all the movement of currency within a system. What is blockchain not? Blockchain is not a high transaction database of random data. That is still within the guise of the current database systems, and it is certainly not an answer to all things. Very often when blockchain, because it is the new name and new word, everyone thinks everything must be a blockchain. But it has very specific use cases. It is still not the answer to all problems is a blockchain. In many cases, current technology is still the best usage. In the next video, I will look at Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and how they are using blockchain to be a decentralized electronic money system that is accessible worldwide, separate from any one controlling influence. Hopefully this video was useful to you. Please leave a like if you found it useful, or comment below if you feel I was incorrect about something, or you have a comment about what I have spoken about.